Everybody to another episode of CLyon Creates. This is episode 2. In this episode, what we're gonna do is take that mold we made last episode, we're gonna fill it with some resin, and we're gonna make some figures. So we're gonna cast some figures with that mold we made, see how they turn out. I haven't used it yet, so let's do that. Here we've got the mold we created in episode 1. First step is to put it in the microwave for about 35 to 40 seconds. A smaller mold you can get away with just about 30 or so. And if you're making multiple figures, you only need to do this the first time. Because once you make a figure, the chemical reaction of it curing in the mold will keep the mold warm. Next step is to spray it with silicone mold release. This is a very important step that needs to be done after each figure is cast. After that, I'll put a little bit of plastic wrap around the mold just to catch anything that might spill. We're going to use a pretty quick drying casting resin that dries white when cured. Although I don't want it white, what I want the final figure to be is a nice dark green. So we're going to use an opaque green resin pigment. And what you do with this is you add this to part A. And you want to mix it thoroughly before mixing your part A with your part B. So now we're going to mix them. Again, this is a 1-to-1 ratio, part A to part B. The easiest way to do this is put 2 clear cups next to each other, pour liquids into each, and make sure the levels match. So after measuring, I take a couple popsicle sticks, wooden sticks, whatever, little mixing sticks, and mix them both. Part B is the yellowish one. Part A is this clear one. As you see, I put a couple drops of the green resin pigment into part A, and then make sure to mix that resin pigment really well into part A. When you go to scrape the sides and the bottom of this, when combining, you don't want to have any excess pigment that isn't mixed into part A. When it goes into part B, you want to make sure that it is thoroughly mixed. So when I combine the two, I cut off a piece of an old recycled coffee cup and mix into that. And as always, when doing this, remember to scrape the bottoms and the sides of both part A and part B to get as much of that resin as you can to keep that 1-to-1 ratio intact. And as you mix this up, you'll see in the cup it gets a little bit milky almost, a little bit white you see. It's a little more clear when there's no pigment in there. But as you mix it, it'll get swirly and cloudy. You need to get rid of all those swirls, and you have about 30 seconds to do this. Nice solid 30 seconds of mixing will take care of that, and then you have another 30 seconds after that, give or take a little bit, before this starts to cure and you're unable to pour it. At this point, you'll also notice the cup will feel a little warm in your hand. This is that chemical reaction I was talking about. If you look at the cup now, it's no longer swirly, it's that nice dark green I'm looking for, or hopefully we're looking for. We'll find out when it cures completely. So we'll just go ahead and pour this slowly into it. I'm gonna go ahead and make a mess, and there's that. That's alright, just scrape it back into the hole. And I'm actually spreading the mold just a little bit on this one. I'll show you what happens when you do that later in the video. When we pull this out, it'll be a little more clear to you. But yeah, I'm pouring it slowly. I'm trying to make sure it gets to the bottom. In this initial video, I actually did this in a 1 pour attempt. It cures just a little too quickly, and I didn't have time to get it into all the little cavities of the mold. As you pour this, you want to tap on the sides of the mold, the bottom of the mold. What you're trying to do is get that resin to seep down into the cavities. When I do this again, what I'll end up doing is doing this in 2 pours. So what that means is I'll pour a little bit of resin in, let that cure, and then do another pour on top of that before demolding this. That will allow me to get it into all cavities of the mold and get all the detail we're looking for. So at this point I realized I didn't have enough product to fill the mold up, and I tried pouring more, but as you see there, it's already started to cure, so it's gelatinous and goopy, and it's about a minute into the curing process. So we'll let this cure for about 10 minutes, but in the meantime, drone time. What we're going to do now is take the figure we just cast out of its mold, and we'll see how we did. I actually ended up cutting this little slit here to add a spot to add more product, just because I thought I might have an issue with casting the hands. All this extra stuff around the figure is what happens when you spread the mold a little bit like that. It's going to just give a spot for more resin to fill. Most of this extra stuff, since it's still soft, this isn't fully cured yet, I can cut off fairly easily. I got my X-Acto knife here, and we're just gonna go in here and cut this off. So now, I'm not trying to be final with this right now, I'm just trying to get the most of the excess stuff off as quickly as I can. Just because, again, it's still not fully cured, so it's still soft and easy to cut. What I'll do is I'll go in with sandpaper and the X-Acto knife again to do my finish work. And this one, you know, I might end up not doing that at all. I might do less finish work to this one and just try and see if I can recast this figure a little bit better. What I'll do is I'll add another little slit in the top of the mold for the other hand, just to give another fill point so I can add resin to that hand specifically, because as you see here, when I flip it over, that right hand didn't really fill in, so I think that will really help the second hole. Alright, so there it is. That's the figure we cast using the mold we made from this vinyl figure here. After making the mold, we used a 2-part resin to cast this figure. It has a few flaws. That right hand and the neck just aren't perfect. They obviously need a little work. And the neck is strictly because I did not put enough resin into the mold. The right hand was fixed. I actually recast it. Here you see it. That right hand is much more filled in. It still needs a little bit of finishing, but that extra slit I put on top to add a little more product really worked well. I cast it in 2 pours, as you saw, with the little stripe across the back. Unfortunately, I did not match the colors correctly. That's okay though. All in all, it came out pretty well. I'm really happy with it. I've got a little bit of finishing work to do to it, a little sanding and a little paint, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute here. Less than. So here it is, the finished figure. A little bit of paint, a little bit of sanding, added a head, and we've got the vulture from Spider-Man. Thanks for checking out the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Click the like button if you like this video. See you soon.